Okay, welcome back. We're doing the demo for exercise 10.1. We're going to use a template area with the Town Hall homepage. So it wants you to open up Town Hall 2, the index.html page, and then Town Hall 2, the styles C10 underscore main CSS. And so you're going to test the page, open it up to see that except for the two images which are floated, everything else is displayed in a single column, so it's straight on down with no left or right margin. And in the mobile layout, everything looks great except for the missing margins as well. So that's what that looks like. All right, so I'm going to put that down here. Number 3, in the CSS file, we're going to set the display property for the body so that it uses grid. Alright, so in the CSS we want to go to the body, which is starting on line 9, and we want to, down here on line 17, display and then use the word grid. Okay, then we're going to define the template for the body. So it has 4 rows and 1 column. All 4 rows should be sized automatically, and the column should be sized so it takes up the full width of the body, so no gaps are required. So how you do that is you set the grid template property here. The attributes say repeat. Then you have the 4 columns, the auto sizing, and then number 4 wants you to define the grid areas in the body. For the header, so we have head. For the navigation, so navi. For main, just use main, and then for the footer, just use foot. Okay, so those, and then you want to code each of these elements in the right place. So going down into our head section, our navigation, our main, and our footer, we want to code those. So let's start down in our heading area. You can see on line 40, we say grid area, and then assign the head. In the navigation, we have grid area navi, so we're using the name for the ID name, nav underscore menu. We go down into main on line 83 here, we've got grid area main. And then finally in our footer, all the way down here, we have grid area foot. So now we've established those connections. Okay, we're going on to number 5. We want to set the display property for the UL element in the navigation menu. So let's go back up to our navigation. Right up here. It helps that they're all in the same order. Our CSS is in the same order as the elements show on the page. On the HTML page, it's easier to find. All right, so we've got our navigation menu. We're looking at the UL. That's what it said. So the LI elements are displayed within a grid. So we have the right here our UL, our unordered list. We have on line 65 display grid. Okay, then it says to define the template for the UL element, so it has 1 row that's sized automatically and 5 columns that each occupy 1/5 the width of the menu. So here's how you do that on line 66. Set the grid template property. The attributes are auto, repeat, 5 columns, and then we have the one row. Then the rows should be sized automatically. First column should occupy 30% of the available space in the grid, and the second column should occupy the rest of the remaining space after adding a column gap of 2.5. Okay, so we've got down here for the main, we have already had in line 83 grid area main, display grid, line 85 the grid template, auto sizing, and then it says 30% auto, and then the grid gap is 2.5%. So that's that column gap in the main. Number 7, define the grid area for the section and aside using numbered lines. Okay, so the section, we have our grid row 1, then you have /2, grid column is 2/3. And again, just revisit what the code that was given in the book for this section. It can explain all of that. You're going to do the same with the aside, which is down here, grid row, line 144, 1 and 2, grid column 1 and 2. All right, so number 8, you're going to adjust the top and bottom padding for the header. Let's go back up to our header. And you're going to adjust the top and bottom padding for the header, remembering that the padding is now based on the height of the grid area that contains the header. So in this case, the height is 80 pixels, which is the same as the height of the image. Okay, so you have to remember that. If you look at the header image, you've got some padding right there. So when you talk about the padding for the header, let's go back up here. We've got on line 30, we've got our padding 1M for the top. Right is 0, bottom is 0.5 m, and the left is 0. Okay, let's see. 9, you're going to adjust the left padding for the aside. So it's based on the width of the aside. So let's go down to our aside. It's the article and then the aside. Adjusting the left padding to 0. Okay, and then let's see, number 10. Adjust the right padding for the section so it's based on the width of the section. Okay, so you want to go down up to the section right here. And again, we've got our padding 0 on the top. The right is 3.7%. Then the bottom is 20 pixels, left is 0. Okay, that's based on the width of the section. Then it says to also change the left padding for the section to 0, which we did. Since a column gap is now being used. All right. So then number 11, you're going to locate the media query that checks that the viewport width is 767 pixels or less. So let's go find that. I know that all of our media queries are down at the bottom, 767 or less. So on line 182, this is our mobile landscape to tablet portrait. Within this query, you're going to create a grid for the header that has 3 rows and 1 column. Okay, so 3 rows, 1 column. This is on line 187. Don't forget to put display grid. And then allow a column grid gap of 0.5 ems. So grid gap right there on 188. Okay, all 3 rows should be sized automatically. Okay, so you have auto right in here. You're going to adjust the padding above and below the header based on the new height of the grid area. Okay, so here's your padding based on the new height of the grid area. So you want to adjust these numbers for the top. The right and the left stay at 0, but the top and the bottom are 1.5 m each. And then center the image in the header horizontally. So text align center right here on 189 will take care of that. So you're going to place the mobile menu in the grid area for the navigation menu and then test this change. So then you've got change the template for the main element so it contains 2 rows and 1 column. So both rows should be sized automatically, so auto. And the column should be the full width of the body. Then redefine the positions of the section and aside in the grid using the numbered lines for the grid. And so you see down in here 198, grid columns 1 and 2. Okay, then you're going to change the left and right margins. You see those right here for the section, and the left and right for the aside to 2.5. So the top and bottom are 0 still, and left and right is 2.5%. Since now they're based on the full width of the body, then you're going to remove the right padding from the section. So padding right, just make that as 0. So then you're going to test, save, and then test those changes. Whoops, you have to get off that CSS, get back over to the HTML before you show it live. Click on that, it'll open up in the browser. And there we can see that we have our, when we go down into our media queries, we can see that our image has resized. It's using a grid, very easily puts everything to where it moves as the page changes. So this demonstrates the grid option. Okay, see you in the next one.